Well, mindfulness meditation definitely has an impact on the limbic system. So the limbic system, that lizard brain, our primitive brain that develops, first and wants to protect us, and it wants to keep us safe. Well, the mindfulness practices actually help to improve parts of the limbic system and improve the way the limbic system communicates with the rest of the brain. So CIRS folks might be familiar with some parts of the limbic system. There are many, but hypothalamus, hippocampus, thalamus, amygdala. And these four players often show up in the neuroquant brain scans that people get because they might show inflamed. They might show up as being atrophied. And so we know a little bit about that these particular parts of the brain are affected from the biotoxin exposure, right? So mindfulness practices can help with certain parts of that, and one being the amygdala. The amygdala sort of signals and sounds the alarm and puts us into flight, fight, freeze, fawn. And the practices through research are shown to reduce the size of the amygdala. So it helps to dampen that stress response. So it's not so big. The cortisol spikes aren't so significant. And also the hippocampus, which is really important with memory and different executive functions, it helps to actually improve the gray matter in that part. And we know the limbic system communicates with the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and that helps with our emotional regulation, our behavior, our motivation, and the practices do help with the limbic system. So how it's different from limbic system retraining programs is really the presentation and the setup. So some of those programs have an expectation that you're practicing maybe an hour a day, or that you are following sort of a specific script, which personally in my experience feels a bit like spiritual bypassing, because it's hard to pretend that you're in an emotional state that you're not actually in. And mindfulness practice is different because it meets you wherever you are. It actually brings acceptance and kindness and love and support to those more challenging states of grief and sadness and frustration and anger. And in my own experience and working with other people, we actually need to meet and work through that to then be able to get to these places that are more loving and open and receptive. So mindfulness is a part of those training programs. They actually incorporate it in, sometimes explicitly saying it's meditation, and other times just mindfulness moments are incorporated into the limbic system retraining programs. But mindfulness meditation is really a path, a set of specific meditation practices that impact the brain and help you to be feeling more connected to your experience in life.
Interesting. Okay. I like how you brought up spiritual bypassing because I agree. And there is something I read about self-gaslighting, and I said, who's teaching this? This is nuts. You shouldn't do gaslighting of any kind, especially to yourself. And so I like that this mindfulness meets you where you are. If you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day, and that's just how it is. It's life. I think we have this view of life where everything is supposed to be just happy and perfect and great. And that's what the 1980s sitcom sold us. And it's just not true. So I like that everything is where you are in the present moment, and you can honor that. I really appreciate that as someone with CIRS, and especially my listeners with IBD, when your stomach is not in a good place and not to get graphic, but you're having rectal bleeding and you're having colon spasms and the whole thing, and you're so freaking uncomfortable, that you can meet your mind. Because I'm finding that with the last steps of my CIRS protocol, I'm really working on the nervous system, and this is a big part of it. So that is something that is hopeful for me.
And
Go ahead.
Oh, that's how people develop resilience, is actually meeting a difficulty and seeing that they're capable of working through it. That's how you develop confidence. And it's really brave to face that and go through it. But then when you meet an experience that's difficult again, you have a way to work through it. And if you skip over all of that and just try to be high vibe, you're really going to find that it's going to come back in some other form in your life. You can't really
Oh,
escape
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I like the idea too of building resilience. That's perfect because you have all these tools in your toolbox. We always talk about the physical tools, right? We talk about the binders and we talk about, oh, if we're caught in mold again, we use a cholestyramine or whatever, but having the mental tools are just as important. And that's good to know.